Before we kick things off, I've got 2 quick things for you. First, do you want to push real innovation and help spark the uncomfortable but necessary conversations in the concrete industry? Support this show. When you donate, we list you as a producer of the episode because you're literally making these conversations happen. Go to concretelogicpodcast.com/donate and back the show today. Second, for a limited time, you can get free access to the Concrete Logic Academy. Take your first class on us, earn a PDH credit, and stick around for the networking and resources you won't find anywhere else in the industry. Claim your free trial now at concretelogicpodcast.com/academy. All right, let's get into today's episode.
What's the most used man-made material on Earth? I'll give you the answer. Concrete. This is the Concrete Logic Podcast. Have you ever stopped to think about the sidewalks, driveways, bridges, or the buildings around you? They're all made from concrete. So why don't we discuss it more? In each episode of Concrete Logic, we'll explore a unique concrete-related topic with the help of industry professionals shaping the trade's future. We'll talk with suppliers, contractors, architects, engineers, specialists, and even proponents of competing materials. We'll get their views on concrete and their visions for its future. So get ready to mix things up with Concrete Logic, where we turn the spotlight on the material that's everywhere but often overlooked. This is the Concrete Logic Podcast. And now, here's your host, Seth Tandit.
And welcome to another episode of the Concrete Logic Podcast. Today I have Chad Gill. He's president with BAs for Construction. And today we're going to talk about AI as far as in construction. And we're going to talk a little bit about the blue collar, if we call it. I like gray collar, Chad. Gray collar.
Gray collar.
How gray collar, blue collar trades can use AI. We're also going to talk about maybe some quote unquote threats of AI in our industry. Chad, do you want to tell folks more about yourself before we get started?
Yeah. So Chad Gill, I was president and owner of Concreate. We were a concrete grinding and polishing company, doing commercial work all up and down the East Coast. I did that for 23 years. Background, I came out of VMI with a engineering degree, found myself starting a company, working in the trades. I love construction. I love the people. I love everything about it. And so it was a great way to kind of it's a very fulfilling job. At the end of a construction day, you can look back and see what you did. And I don't think people in other jobs don't get that, Exited that company. And then once I did that, we started using virtual assistants inside of that company and saw the advantages from it. And then that spawned us to start another company, and that's the VAs for Construction. And then through that, got really interested and passionate about AI and what it can do and what it will do for, our industry and our trades and stuff like that. And I think this is a good time to be in it, but, it's definitely going to have some impact. So, yeah, thanks for having me on, man. Super excited about it.
Yeah, I think since just to clarify, your virtual assistants, we want to make sure people know that you use real people for that. So we're not going to say that we use AI for virtual assistants yet, and maybe we'll dabble into that later in the conversation. But I think just to start off with, can we talk about what AI is and kind of define what AI is? I think that's kind of lost on people. And then if you know anything about large language models as well, if you could define that.
Yeah.
Those two things before we get started.
Yeah, for sure. So AI has kind of become this catch-all throwaway term, kind of like COVID. Nobody really knows what it is. It's just something. But, most of what people think of for AI is is really automation. So if you've used Google Maps to get you somewhere, that's AI. If you get your Netflix, recommendations and stuff like that, that's automation, that's AI looking at different aspects of what you do and trying to predict your next behavior or what you would like for that answer to be. Generative AI is what you hear talking about, like things like Chat GPT, or if you're in Google using Gemini. So those kind of things. It started as like a chatbot, and so people use it as a Google search on steroids, but it's much more than that. In fact, if you can get shifted where you think of AI as a thought partner, then you really kind of escalate what you can do with AI. But all AI is a large language model is where one of these big labs like OpenAI or Meta or Google, there's about 5 ones that are really big. They take all the information and data that they can find. I mean, huge volumes, huge amount, like almost all known human knowledge that they can get at that moment in time. And then they feed that into a mathematical model. And that's called a large language model. It's so big that when they're training it, which means they're running it through their algorithm to create this mathematical model. Like, I think when they were training GPT-3, a version of OpenAI that's now probably considered old because it came out, in February or something, it's like, that's the speed of change here. It took enough power. It took so much power to train it to process all that data that you could run San Francisco for something like 3 days.
Wow.
Now, San Francisco is very poorly run, but it still uses a lot of power. So it's a huge usage of power, right? But it processes, and all it does, what the large language model does, it's not a sentient being. It's not God in a box. It's all it's doing is it's taking and saying, of all the trillions of conversations and videos and stuff that the model has seen and had uploaded into it, based on that and these sentences that you typed into the chat box, it's predicting and guessing what you want the next word to be or the next series of words. That's how it thinks, if you want to call it thinking. And that's what it does. And so these models get bigger and bigger and more efficient. So then the reaction you see makes it seem like the tool that you're using, the AI, is getting smarter and smarter. And they absolutely are. So it looks like it thinks. It has human-like responses and all those kind of things, but it's not a human, and it's driven by some rules that are put in by the people that run these labs. So that's where you see things like one version came out and it was like too sycophantic. It wanted to just make everybody happy. So it told you everything you said was a good idea. It just told you it was a great idea, and you're like that. Some people like that, but that's probably not a good idea. And so that's what these models are. And then people always say, well, what's the best one to use? It really doesn't matter. It'd be like if you were going to a family reunion and you were going to have to do a foot race against all of your cousins, and you don't want to lose. And then somebody taps you on the shoulder and says, hey, you can pick anybody from the Olympic sprinting team to run for you. Like, it doesn't matter who you pick. They're all faster than your cousins. These things are amazing. Chad GPT is the one that most people by far use because it's the most common one. And then there's some things like people talk about like the paid version versus the free version. What you need to know is that if you put anything in the free version, that's data they automatically include and use when they're training their next model. So somebody looks at it. And if you have a paid version, you get some security built into that because they tell you they're not going to use it. So I don't know how you would know, but they promise. It's so there's some security with having paid versions and that kind of thing. But yeah, that's a really good. I mean, that's kind of the quick and dirty of the language model and the AI.
Yeah, that was perfect. Thank you. Yeah, and it's not. People think this is like a new concept. I just think it's. Would you say it's? I heard someone say this. I'm taking this from somewhere. I didn't come up with it, but I'm going to show my age as well. Do you remember Clippy on Microsoft Word, the little clip guy that used to pop up when you're typing a paper or whatever? And he was your little helper. That's AI. That started back then, but really, this caught fire because of the internet. I mean, we didn't have internet when Clippy was around. I don't think, at least it wasn't widespread and accessible. So it's like we got Clippy now. Clippy's going all over the place and helping everybody out, but it's definitely more sophisticated than that was back then. Yeah. But I always thought that was funny when I heard that reference.
Yeah, and it's crazy too because people, this is going to be a tectonic shift in humanity. I mean, like to say that and be like, Chad, let's not go. What are you on CNN getting a little dramatic? And they're like, no, it really, really is because for two reasons. One, it's changing so fast. So the difference between version 1 and version 2 is enormous. The time between them is very small. So you've got this exponential curve, where the change is happening so fast, and now we're getting on that. But also, like, the last time something like this happened, an industrial revolution, whether it was the automobile or electricity or the internet itself, there weren't, when electricity came out, it took 80 years before you got power lines to rural communities. It was dial up, and it was expensive. And so it took years before Al Gore could give us all the internet. But with AI, it's like a new AI model or version comes out today, and the entire world has it, 8 seconds later. And then there's 5 groups putting out new versions every month. So the rate of change is so fast that you can't even stay up to date. I mean, seriously, like a month ago is years worth of development. And so that speed of change is what is just shocking.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I shared with you, I use it every day. It's very helpful. Let's talk about how folks in the concrete industry could leverage AI.
So I love it. People know about using AI to write. You can write emails and do things like that, and that is really good for that. But we try to think of things much more application based. So I start at the superintendent level on a job site, and so I would get a message back from one of my crew leads, and it was normally laced with profanity and in broken English for one angle or another, whether it's Portuguese or Spanish influenced. And it was like, hey, there's the guys aren't ready for us. There's this, there's that, and there's all these kinds of problems and stuff like that, right? Well, you would get that, and then I need to be able to turn that around and make it into something that, the general contractor won't fire me for saying, but put it in a professional format and reference the contract. So I can take if I have a recording of what he's telling me. So let's say I have a Spanish-speaking lead man, and I give him a device, and he just, in Spanish, tells me the issues he's having, right? And then I have that recording. Yeah, I will translate that from Spanish into English. It will then transcribe it, so now I have it in writing, and then it can summarize it and then send it to me or send it to one of our, an in-house person. For us, it's a VA, but for you, it could be an admin or a PM or a project engineer. That project engineer can then go act on it and then send that message around and then get back to them. And so it's a really good communication tool for that. We can do things like create a knowledge base for a job where we'll upload the schedule of values and the contract terms and stuff like that. So as a superintendent, you can pull up and try to figure out what's in your scope. We pour concrete a lot at night, so we're trying not to have to wake up people if we don't have to. So being able to have that resource readily available, even uploading the building code, So you're like, hey, what size pipe do I put here? How much coverage do I need on this component? Manuals for equipment, it won't start. Help me troubleshoot this. It's there's some really cool things you can do in the field that are.
Yeah. So translation, I heard manuals. So let's kind of talk about that specific where you're asking questions about specific things that maybe you're reading, say like manuals, like you said, specifications, what else? Maybe SDS paperwork or, things that we come across all the time that we're supposed to be reading, but maybe we don't read. What's a best practice for getting, I guess, accurate information out of those documents from the AI if you're using AI?
So the big thing there is when you ask, let's say you just open up Chat GPT and you had it on your phone and you asked it something, it will give you an answer. Now it's going to search the internet and do all those kind of things. Nowadays it will search the internet. It used to just only go with the information it already had. But it's using a collective amount of knowledge that it has access to or has been uploaded to. Now, if you create a specific knowledge base, let's say you're doing a job, and then you upload documents about that job, your submittals, your MSDS, your tech data sheets, SDSs now, those kind of things, and you upload them to that job, and then you tell the AI to ask to make sure all of its answers come from and only from your uploaded documents. Now you're highly accurate and specific to it. And what you're doing is you're adding context is what it's called. You're saying, this is the job I'm on. Talk to me only about information from this job. What I love about like a really cool use case is, let's say you're going to the job and you need to do, a toolbox talk, like a safety talk to get started. the morning safety briefing or something, you could tell it, this is what I'm doing, or you would know what job you're on and stuff like that, and say, here's the activities we're doing today. Give me a quick safety briefing, and do it in 4 languages. And it would put together a 10-minute safety briefing or a 5-minute safety briefing. And then you could play that. And it's tailored exactly to the activities you're doing that day and referencing the submittals that you're working on. So it'll say, hey, look, you're working with some caustics today. This is important that you take it. Or we're placing concrete and there's some standard practices we need to watch. Whatever it is in time rebar. So, okay, we're going to worry about punctures and scrapes and rust and, whatever goes into those things. But you can tailor it for every moment because you've got the smartest, fastest, dumbest intern imaginable working for you. It's like it knows everything, but it doesn't know anything about your day. You got to tell it your day, and then it can tell you how it relates to it.
Yeah, you got to, what they're calling you got to become a very good prompt jockey.
Yeah, it used to be like everybody said, English is the new programming language. So, they were talking about all these layoffs and stuff like that. When it used to be, you would see and they're like, oh, you should learn to code. No. You should learn how to talk. And that's tough for this new generation because they've been texting and they talk like they text. You're like, no, dude, you got to, it's like an interesting example that is being specific about when you're speaking to AI is they had a contest where they took AI and they had to play a boating game. It was a boat race. And if I told you that, Seth, I want you to go in there and win that boat race, you would naturally assume, all of us would assume that your goal would be to finish first in the boat race. I mean, that's the name of the game, right? Well, the AI determined that the highest score was the winner. And it is, in a way, depending on how you reference it. So it figured out that it could just run in circles in one little section of the course and ram all the other boats. And that would maximize its score. So you got to make sure that what you ask for is what you really want. And that's where the human in the loop, they talk about, AI it's leverage. It's a multiplier. It's a force multiplier. It'll take whatever you're doing and do it at scale, and really, really fast. So if you're screwing something up, it can screw up something big fast, which is where you want to have, safety and human in the loop type protocols to make sure that it's doing what you want it to do. And you can't speak vaguely to AI when you're giving it direction.
Yeah. Well, maybe it'll help us all improve the way we talk and vocalize and expand our language. It could be a good thing because that's one of the things that I was chuckling because I just think about how at my house I get irritated when I hear there's this trend to shorten all the words, because we can't say more than 2-syllable words anymore, or even 1-syllable words.
Yeah.
Or my sons are always saying bro. I was like, oh yeah, can't stand that. So you can't be talking to the AI like that and expect to get good results.
Yeah, no. I mean, you have to be more purposeful about what you're speaking, and the AI in and of itself is really good at helping you be more purposeful. It's like we do a lot of thought finessing, so it's like, you're driving somewhere and you're saying that, what you want to say. But like for me, I'm a circular talker. Like if you just caught the last third of whatever I say, that's where all of the meat of it is. The first 2/3 is me thinking out loud. You and I are hearing my ideas at the same time for the first time. Yeah. So it's the last part of the sentence. AI is really good about that if you literally just speak and it records it and you're talking, and then it gets to the end, you say, okay, now turn that into a concise thought and send it to this person. That's where you're using it as a thought partner. And it does a much better job. It's not that you're using it to write it because you can't write. It's using it to help you coalesce your thoughts. Yeah. And you can ask it to help you, to challenge you on it. Teaching, we do a lot of teaching people how to, one, talk to AI. And I mean literally talk, not typing into the box, but hit the little microphone and speak into it, because you will say, one, you can talk 3 times faster than you can type, unless you're my daughter and you can talk 27 times faster than any human being can type. So there's a speed there, but really what it's about is you'll say more. So if I were to ask you to give me a daily report of what you guys got done on the job site today, and you had to type it in there, I'm going to get section A and B and 3 and half of the cafeteria out. That's it. Bro would be at the end. It'd be just BRUH. I think they went to BRO. I think you didn't have it.
You're right. I'm not cool enough to say throw.
Yeah, bro. And it's like, so was it was it a good day on site? Good. Okay, that's all we need. I mean, 7 tractors blew up, who knows what.
Yeah.
But so you'll say so much more, and that's more context, and that's what we're looking for, because when you're trying to run a project, as you know, it's like you're desperate for data from the field, not because I'm trying to, micromanage you. I'm trying to move obstacles for you. You just haven't told me about them until you've already hit them and you're angry about it.
Mm-hmm.
So we get more data by having people speak, and then we can act on it faster because one project manager can't talk to everybody on the job multiple times a day throughout the day and be patient and be caring and remember what in the hell was said. But an AI can speak to hundreds of people at one time, infinitely patient, infinitely knowledgeable about the details, and then convey that information and sort it in a way that's so fast that it makes you a better project manager, which means you can facilitate. And I feel like a project manager job is to enable others to get their work done with as little friction as possible. I think that should be there. I don't think they all live out that mode, but that's what I think their job should be. Get the job done with the least amount of friction, which leads to efficiency. AI is a super good tool for that. Another way, you talk about field uses. So I'm big on recording and voice. Let's say you're going to go do a site walk, whether it's for estimating or whatever. I'll go into an estimating thing and I'll click my little recorder and I'll start going in there, and we'll have an hour-long conversation, me and an owner or something like that, walking the job, talking about the pros and cons and all the different things. And I'm making promises left and right. Somebody's going to ultimately have to follow up on those promises and fulfill them. We should probably tell them what I did promise. But I'm going to visit 4 sites that day. And so by the end of the 4th site, do I remember who I told what? But I've got a transcription for every one of those meetings. And then as soon as that meeting is over and I hit stop, it syncs back to my admin, who then starts to write, uses AI to summarize it, uses AI to draft an email that follows up, that summarizes everything that I said with the client, sends it to the client to make sure they're aware of what we did. Then it turns it into a turnover sheet or an information or briefing sheet that goes into our project file that's fed, and then AI can reference that. And then it goes over to our operations team so they can start working on, whether it's the estimate or knowing, hey, this is what they came up with. Here's the to-dos that we got to get done. And then me as the guy in the field, I can keep moving from one job to the other. And so whether you're a general superintendent and you're capturing all those things, or going to meet with other superintendents, it's a great way to capture it. But you do want to tell people you're recording. I mean, you don't want to be that. I don't secretly record people. Mm-hmm. And then people are like, well, maybe, Chad, I don't know if I'm super comfortable with you recording this conversation. Would you rather me not remember it? Because I can do that. That's what I used to do.
Yeah. Or you can say, hey, I'm going to start recording and summarize what we just talked about. And you can jump in if I say something that we didn't discuss or you disagrh. Just let them know ahead of time. But yeah, I understand that. In your work with AI, I was looking up our last AI episode was number 120. I had Rami Sedra on the show from his company C60. But we've had a couple of episodes now where there's companies that are taking mixed designs and using a bunch of that data from mixed designs, from the testing and concrete breaks, of essentially trying to come up with a very efficient mixed design is the whole thing, right? And my question to Rami, I think I had the AI concrete guy on. I asked him that as well. Like, have you noticed how often the AI is incorrect as far as telling you information based on what you give it? Have you seen any of that? Is that what they consider a hallucination? Is it giving you the wrong answer?
Yeah, absolutely. So it will hallucinate. It will make up an answer because it wants to give you an answer, for sure. And a lot of that comes down to, that's the difference between, I'm going to just pull up Chat GPT, or I'm going to pull up the Baker app that has generative AI in it. And the reason is because if it searches the entire internet to find your answer, then it's got some wrong answers and some right answers, and then it may try to take that and draft its own version of an answer. But if you're using tailored or tuned, or trained, is what a lot of people want to tune. I want to make sure that when I'm talking this particular app, I'm talking to it solely about concrete or mixed designs or things like that. Because when you can target the AI at something, it's just got all this knowledge. Think of it, it knows the average tree growth of a sequoia in California. It knows the rainfall in Japan. It knows, how many people live in Australia. It knows all this data, right? So when you ask it a question, it searches all that data and it goes a mile wide and an inch deep to try and find you the answer the first time. And then you do what's called multi-shot prompting. You try to refine it down. But if instead you had one that already knew, hey, when you and I are talking and we're talking through this channel, we're only talking about mixed designs and concrete, and here are my trusted sources that we can use, whether that's, ACI or some engineering for, paperwork, internal documents, things you put in there and say, your answers can only come from here, then you really limit the ability for it to hallucinate. And then we also tell people, look, take it and then say, all right, show me where you found that. Take me to the link in the building code where you found that, or take me to the document that you found that in. And then you'd still have to do your due diligence, just like you would ask an intern for a piece of information. They're bringing the information. You don't just assume the intern got it right. I mean, I think we all probably assume the intern didn't get it right. That's why we asked them. We thought it'd be funny to see what they would do. But, you do check it until you do that. And then that's the training of the AI. You want to make sure that for you to unleash this thing to the masses in your company, that you've checked the answers.
Yeah. Yeah, so you got to review what they give you.
Yeah, but you can absolutely tune one and train it, which all training means is you tell it, here's good data. Use only this data. And then don't go out and search a bunch of other information stuff. Only pull it from here. And then you won't get the hallucinations. And sometimes you have to put in the prompt. If you don't know, tell me you don't know. Don't make something up.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny like that. People forget to, sometimes you have to talk to it like you would a person.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking of. It's just like, someone new to your company or your team, same way. You're coaching them and saying, hey, if you run into this situation, this is what you do, or you give them feedback immediately based on, what they, give you. So you just got to, I think people are going to actually have an easier time doing that because people are so scared to give other people feedback.
Yeah, it's a good way to practice. Like, we talk about, managing people is hard, so, we build a lot of AI coaches for employees, and so it's like, you've got a superintendent and you're like, hey, maybe your company is a big fan of extreme ownership, Jocko Willet's type coaching practice or whatever. So you can say, okay, well, let me go and, let me feed in a bunch of transcripts from his YouTube videos. Let me read his book. I want to build an AI version of Jocko Willett, but I also wanted to have a softer side of this. So you can make this conglomeration of the ultimate concrete coach for superintendents, right? Uh-huh. And then you can give that to your superintendent and then have them review it and be like, okay, well, here's the situation I'm dealing with. What should I do? What recommendations would you have? And you can help coach that superintendent to be a better superintendent, a better manager of people. And what I love about it is nowhere in there when they get, whether it's harsh feedback or great feedback, they're not going to be like, oh, well, Chad just hates me. That's why he said that. They're like, no, it's an AI. I hate you. You've earned it. But it's like, it's not, it's infinitely patient. You can ask the same question 100 times. You keep doing. So that's a really good way to do it. And we'll tell people create a channel for each of your direct reports and just on a, you could be daily, but weekly, just kind of talk to it about that employee. And then when it comes time to do a quarterly, review of that employee, you go back to that channel because if they wreck a truck right before your review, they're going to get a bad review, even if they've done really well all quarter. And they might still, but you get in there and be like, okay, here's the things you've done well. Here's what you haven't done well. Here's what we talked about in your last review and what you should work on a little bit better. And it's just a much better, people take it better. And it comes across much more objective. So it's another weird place where AI works really, really well, but you don't hear people using it. And I love it for that, recording business meetings, when you have your site meetings. How did I do? A pre-pour meeting, we're all chasing that ideal pre-pour meeting, right? The one where we actually said everything we should say. Well, you could record 30 pre-pour meetings and then say, okay, of that, tell me what you think would be the ideal agenda. And then based on that ideal agenda, rate this meeting, this pre-pour meeting 1 to 10. And then you could start to do those and then coach different people on their meetings and say, hey, you did the pre-pour meeting. and it went pretty well. The AI gave you a 7. That's better than average, and it's way better than your last one, which was a 3. And that building fell down, by the way. But it's like, you can coach them through that to make them better. And then it'll say, hey, okay, would you like a revised agenda for the next meeting? Yeah, absolutely. What did I miss in the pre-pour that I should have said? Okay, great. Will you create a follow-up email so I can make sure and get that information out to all the attendees?
Yeah.
Crazy good uses.
Yeah. So many. We mentioned this before we hit record, and if we could just touch on this topic, I know we could probably do a whole another episode on this, but you shared that you're going down to Clemson to give a talk about a lot of these things that AI can help us with are taking a lot of the administrative type tasks that we normally put upon someone that's new coming into the industry. So a recent college grad, they usually go into like a project engineering or assistant project manager type position. You were sharing with me, you think those couple first normal rungs of the ladder that you go up as you progress through a company, you think those may disappear. Can you talk about that a little bit? And hopefully we don't go too far extended.
Everybody, if you weren't wearing your seatbelt, put one on now, because this is rough.
Yeah.
So it used to be that we would say, AI is not going to take your job, but somebody that knows AI is going to take your job. And that's not honest. AI is going to take a lot of jobs. They're talking about 30 to 50% of white collar jobs being obsolete in like 3 years. That's a lot of people. Now and you're like, okay, that's great. We're in the gray collar show. Okay, that's good. But now when you talk about places that are ripe for AI to assist or take over, it's a lot of this administrative and documentation and research type of stuff. So that's your PEs, your assistant project managers, and things like that. So if you come into a company now and the career ladders had the bottom 3 rungs just cut out, how do you leap to get to that top one? And one of the things I would tell you is if you're coming out of school, or you're looking at getting into, wherever you're coming out of, whether it's high school or college or whatever, and you're going into the trades, you need to be finding out how you can learn about AI. Learn these basic skills, because showing up not knowing how to use AI is very quickly to be like showing up and not knowing how to use the internet. It's just going to be that ubiquitous across everything we do. And your career ladder is going to start to look more like a ninja course than it is a ladder you climb. But if you have those skills, now you can do things faster, and it really opens up a lot of opportunity to you, because you have this expert. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room anymore. That smartest person's in your pocket. Now what you have to be able to do is to talk to it, to understand it, to apply it, and look for places where that can help you in your position and help you understand things better. There's a huge difference between somebody using AI saying, tell me the answer, to saying, help me understand the principle. And if you're saying, help me understand the principle, then you're going to grow much faster. And that's how you can get to that higher rung. Now, if you're a company and you're interviewing people, and you're not asking them about their AI skills, then you're at risk of being bypassed, because you won't be able to. I tell people this is a wave. You're either going to surf it, get swamped by it, or it'll pass you by. And if you're just sitting out there in flat water and it's passed you by, you're losing money. So we're going to have to see project manager and those kinds of, you're going to have to be able to figure out how we're going to get that knowledge. That means how are we going to have a training program that can get somebody from 0 to 10 in a hurry, because we don't have time to step them through all of those steps. And they're also not going to need to do them, because the AI is going to do the documentation, the RFI submittals, a lot of this legwork that we've left, that we've had PEs do, that we said was training for project manager. And the project manager's role is going to change too.
Yeah, I agree with that. Not all of it. I don't know necessarily all those jobs. I mean, 30 to 50% seems like a whole lot. But I think there's going to be maybe a realignment of what those folks were doing. For one, I think you're going to get more out of one person. I mean, our productivity in the United States has stunk for decades, right? I think this is an opportunity for that to jump up quite a bit. The people that haven't been contributing to companies, yeah, those folks are gone. I mean, they're fairly quickly going to find out who those people are. What kind of perked my ears was the project engineer position. I think that the AI could give us an opportunity to have those folks focus on some of the things that I think are lacking on job sites. We talk about safety. I think safety is talked about, but there's always more you can do. And one of those things I think that we could work on as an industry is simple things that I yell at my kids about at home is put your things away, put them where they're supposed to be, and be more organized. I mean, you could go to any job site and walk around, and there's always something that's not supposed to be there, right? And people waste a lot of time looking for the tools, looking for, whatever they need to do their job. If we could put some focus on that and maybe realign these project engineers that start at a company on becoming like industrial engineers instead of project engineers.
Yeah.
To kind of focus on that makes your job site safer and makes it more efficient. That's where I kind of see that. So you get away from doing these administrative type things that are, good grief, they're just put you to sleep, some of the tasks that they make you do. But at the same time, you can focus on, like I said, some of those industrial engineering type things. But you just have, to me, the AI just gives you information access so much quicker. Like you're not going to spend all that time looking for the thing. You could just ask it, hey, this is what I'm looking for. What is it? As long as you, like you pointed out, you got to give it the information that you want it to pull from. Otherwise, it's going to go wherever on the internet and find that information.
And I think that's exactly the right attitude of it. So when I'm talking about these things, those activities are gone because AI is doing them, doesn't mean the person's gone. You still got the person. Now what you want to do is, in an ideal world, now we've got time to do, we lumped all this administrative stuff on top of people in the name of safety, in the name of production and documentation and stuff like that. So now we're going to peel that away and get back to the core of the person who's a builder. They're making things, they're placing concrete. But it also should free up time now to actually do the coaching and the mentoring and the nurturing of the positions around you. And that's what you're talking about. The best practices, making sure AI is not going to come up to you and go, hey, remember you didn't put your hammer away. But a good project manager that's got more time, a general superintendent that has more availability to be human to human interaction, not one who's like, I would do that, but I don't have time because I have to go fill out my reports.
Yeah.
Now we can be better people because we're not trying to be the computer. And I think that's where, in companies that have the mindset of what you're talking about, upskilling their employees so that they can do a different portion of that job, not just be like, oh, well, you know what, I'm going to cut 4 project engineers, my profitability is going to go up. No, that's not what's going to happen. It's more of, I'm going to use them in a different way that I've always wanted to, I just didn't have time to.
Yeah. Well, I think this is a perfect spot to pause the conversation today. We could keep on going. This is a great conversation, Chad. I appreciate you coming on. If folks want to reach out to you, what's the best way?
Yeah, you can reach me on VA, that's the VAS, the number 4 and construction.com. Certainly reach out to me on LinkedIn, and happy to meet and talk to anybody about any of these AI techniques and stuff like that. I mean, it's free. You don't have to, that's not what we do for a living. It's we do virtual assistants and that kind of thing, but we teach AI because I want to see people be successful and grow in their companies. So yeah, I'm happy to meet and discuss it with anybody.
Yeah. And as always, folks, we'll have Chad's contact information in the show notes. So make sure you check out the show notes. There's resources there for all of our listeners. Chad, thanks for coming on the show today. I really appreciate it. It was a great conversation.
Yeah, thanks. I really enjoyed it.
Good. And folks, until next time, let's keep it concrete.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Concrete Logic Podcast. If you got value from the show, here's how you can provide value back to support the show. Visit concretelogicpodcast.com and click the donate button to send value back. All dollar amounts are truly appreciated. And now, to close out the show, here's Mike Dunton.
Ring, ring, that alarm always sings. Couple hours before the sun comes up. Open up the side, put some diesel in the lights, and wait till the trucks roll up. And this ain't how most folks live their lives, dripping in sweat, working overtime. But while their time, their ties for their 9 to 5s, we're clocking days and nights, working hard to get that job done with wood, iron, and mud. We work hard for $1, give thanks to the Lord above. The color of our collars ain't white or blue, we're all gray collar through and through. Expect more, it's written in our blood with wood, iron, and mud. With wood, iron, and mud. We work hard for $1, give thanks to the Lord above. Never make a man do something you can't prove.